Hey everyone, welcome back. This is part 2 to another video that I started earlier. I'll link part 1 in the description and in the comments, just in case you haven't watched that one yet. Continuing from the previous part is a post titled 1 Year Update. Before I begin, I would like to thank all of you, even the haters and the doubters. When I posted a year ago, I was in a dark place. I was always angry, lost, and depressed. The people here really helped me, and the gratitude that I have for all of you will be with me until the day I die. This community helped me get my daughter back. All of you helped me get my life back. The past year has been great, but not without its ups and downs. I have another son, and Jocelyn wants to try for another one. I'm going to have another grandchild. Luna is 2 months pregnant, and my son-in-law has applied for officer training school. I'm hoping he gets in. My daughter has been getting a little better since the therapist started her in prolonged exposure therapy. For a while, her panic attacks went from mild to severe, and thanks to Werewolf Isle 84 for suggesting exposure therapy, it has been a blessing. Our therapy sessions together were hard in the beginning. Listening to everything she went through, she owned up to her mistakes, and I owned up to mine. My in-laws have her working on the ranch, nothing fancy. She's feeding horses and putting out hay, and my mother-in-law has been teaching her how to herd bison. It makes me smile when I see her on a horse. Her face lights up. She and Jocelyn act like mother and daughter, and seeing how Jocelyn is overprotective of her is adorable. I'm blessed to marry such a wonderful woman. When I met her, she had just come out of a very abusive relationship. She had a swollen eye and bruises around her throat, and I volunteered to fix her father's 3 tractors for free since they were damaged due to her ex pouring salt and sugar into the tanks. At first, I minded my business, but as she brought me food, we talked and got to know one another, and a month later, we had our first kiss. It was great. I took her out to dinner, and a few days later, her ex came to see me and tried to scare me off. I put the fear of God into him. Sorry, I went off topic there. In the first week of May, my ex-father-in-law passed away, and I was afraid that Luna would relapse, but she was strong, thanks to Roberto being there with her. That man had a strong impact on her life, and the level of gratitude that I owe him will never be repaid. We all flew to New York, and he had his viewing like a true Boricua. He had a live salsa band, an open bar, and a spread with pastelas, pernil, sancocho. All of his favorite foods were there for everyone to chow down on. Do not mourn me, celebrate me. That was the banner over his casket, which was draped with the Puerto Rican flag, and he was wearing his vanilla ice cream suit. I couldn't help but smile the entire time. Marisol was there, but she was just staring into nothing. It was like her brain shut off, only to turn back on when Luna or I sat next to her and she began talking about preparing for the quinceañera. After a while, she realized where she was and her brain shut off again. Her therapist told us during the second day of the viewing that her mind was stuck in a moment when she was at her happiest. When Luna walked away, the therapist told me that in her professional opinion, she believed my cousin may have raped Marisol, and her mind protected her from that trauma. It rationalized it and made her believe it was a moment of weakness. That messed me up, and I told Jocelyn what the therapist said, and she was shocked. She insisted that I should tell Luna, but I was afraid to. Luna had made so many steps to get better. I didn't want her to revert back. Instead, we told Roberto first, who wanted to go and find my cousin, but I talked him down. Then we sat as a family and spoke to Luna. It was a bad night, a really bad night. We had an incident at the burial 2 days later. My cousin showed up uninvited and caused a scene. He was drunk and I wanted to end him, I believe is the proper term. Instead, I told him to leave. Roberto was holding me back and my cousin began shouting that he was always better than me and always would be, and it was because of him and his daughter that I made my life better, so in a way, he's responsible for me bettering myself. I got angry and I practically lifted Roberto off the ground to get to him, but Luna punched him in the mouth and began pummeling him. She was screaming and crying. She was so angry while attacking him. I briefly hesitated and Roberto pulled her off of him. As he was getting up, Jocelyn punched him and knocked him out, breaking her index finger in the process. Before we went back home, we had a family meeting and we all agreed that we would transfer Marisol to a mental facility near us since she had no one else. We are still going to therapy, and with this new realization, my daughter is trying to cope with the fact that she might be a product of rape. Before this happened, I was planning to adopt her since, legally, she's no longer my daughter. I want to make it official again, but I feel like the timing might not be right. I will answer any questions. I owe this community a lot. God bless you all. User Dare Affectionate 5100 said, take one day at a time, OP. I am so happy that you are doing well with your wife and your daughter. I do believe that in time it will heal all the wounds in the past between you, your daughter, and hopefully your ex-wife. I got to ask how their ex-wife is your ex-wife so far after moving closer to you guys. Is she still trying to get you back or not? Also, I never thought that your ex-wife could have been raped. What makes you think that? Overall, I am glad you and your family are doing well. Please update us if anything else happens. As always, take care. Edit, on the adopting your daughter. You should tell her when the time is right. Be there for her, and I think she will be very happy to know that. Under this comment, OP said the following. The therapist stated that the way she described that night was a clear indication that he forced himself onto her. Since transferring her, the new therapist agrees with the accusation. From how it was explained to us, my cousin came in to pray with her, confessed his feelings, and forced himself on her. She's still in and out. I have seen her a few times already, and every time. It's about the quinceañera and how her life is perfect. It hurts and angers me that one man could ruin so many lives. User Werewolf L84 said, I don't get everyday confirmation from therapists, but I am glad I was right. Anyway, now it would be best if you made a plan of how to wake Marisol back to reality. It is going to be hard and will take many years. Like I told you before, she is stuck. The first thing that maybe will help her is movement and missions. She needs to try, with all of your help, to get into a routine of chores like helping with the kids and feeling part of Luna's life. That way, she will start to feel purpose again. It's like cars from a long time ago where you need to manually start the car until it starts working on its own. As for the part that he raped her, it makes sense, as I told you. You couldn't see anything but the lie and not why it was made, but the damage was done, so we can't do anything about that. And I don't mean about the cousin, I mean for all the stuff you did 5 years ago. For Luna and the I wish you had spoken to me before about that. I would have told you to do this in a therapist's office and not alone because of the baby, to make sure everything is alright with her. Go to a doctor to check on the baby. I am glad she is feeling well, but she still has a long road to go. Did she read my posts? Maybe it can help her. Tell Luna that how she was born does not define who she is as a person. If you want a good book that may help with that, you could read The Peaceful Warrior. It is a very important lesson on how to live in the moment and not define ourselves by our past. You should adopt her again. There isn't any good time for good news. Just tell her, and maybe you should do it as a surprise or something. And as for the cousin, now that his lies are catching up with him, he can't handle the old demons that come up to get him. You don't have to do anything to him except expose him. That way he will destroy himself. More importantly, all of you need to ignore him. That way, his guilt will eat him alive. If you react, you give power to his lies. This way, his anger will have only one direction, and that is towards himself. And as for you, I hope everything is alright. You know where to find me if you need any advice. User SJ Dylan 10 said, this whole story is rough. If Marisol had ever told you she was how would you have reacted, whether in court, during pregnancy, or during your normal life? If that part is true, the story is a lot more painful. That cousin is an evil person, and I love knowing his life has collapsed. To this, OP said the following. To be honest, if Marisol told me that my cousin raped her after I got out of prison, I will be doing a life sentence. If she had told me the truth when I discovered that Luna wasn't biologically mine, I would have called her a liar at first. I would have still called her every name in the book. However, I would have eventually listened, however, with my cousin. I do not know what I would have done to him. Punching him with all my strength every time I saw him was a way to let him know how much he hurt me, but this. I don't know how deep into the rabbit hole I would have gone. There's a lot of would've. Everything looks different in hindsight, but I know if she just told me the truth and not told me to get over it, and it was a moment of weakness over and over again, I think things might be different. My wife has been getting nervous since I have been deadest on getting my ex better, and I told her that no matter what, I will always be faithful and love her. I just need to help my ex and give her a second chance in life. This made her feel better. User in Total Snark said, wow, what a time you've all been through, and that cousin, well, let's just say, can I join the queue for people wanting to hit him? A lot of people have commented and said everything I would want to, and more about how well both you and Luna are handling things. I love how far you've both come. Roberto sounds like a wonderful man, husband, and father who is dedicated to her. It's good to hear that Marisol is getting the help she needs. It sounds like she's been in need of that for many years, well before this all came out, and probably hid that from you in ways you may not have noticed throughout the years. I'm sorry for the loss of her father / Luna's grandfather though, as he sounded like a great man and a great support through the years for Luna. However, the other MVP in this story has to be Jocelyn and her parents. She sounds like she has been a shining light and amazing support for you, Luna, and all of the kids, I'm sure. She has shown amazing empathy for Marisol, and breaking her finger landing a punch, you've got yourself a true force to be reckoned with there. I'll keep on supporting each other, and best wishes on the arrival of your newest grandchild. About 9 months later, OP gave us another update. Hello everyone, it's been a while and I would like to express my gratitude to all of you. My family continues to grow. I have 2 grandchildren, a boy and a girl, 2 sons, and another daughter on the way. For a while, I was guilt-stricken and a bit depressed after being told what happened in Marisol's hypnotherapy session. From the explanation, she said no twice before freezing up for over a minute, and she begged him to stop, which was when my cousin finished and got off of her. The therapist said she rolled to her side and kept repeating over and over it was a mistake, and she convinced herself that it was a mistake. That truly impacted me. It caused this cloud of depression to hover over me. I blamed myself, I blamed my cousin, and I began playing scenarios in my head, focusing on the could've, would've, should've, and it hit so hard. I told myself that my cousin was right. I did ruin her. I struggled to remember every family interaction to see if there were any signs, anything that would have indicated that he did something to her, and there was. Whenever he was in the house, she was never in the same room with him or alone with him. I never noticed it, but now everything is so vivid. Hindsight is a real. Over the next few months, Luna and I sat in family therapy sessions with Marisol. Like many of you, the therapist also asked me what I would have done if Marisol had told me the truth when I got out. Honestly, I would have taken him out. If she had told me years later, I would have beaten him within an inch of his life. Finally, I was asked if she had told me during the quinceañera. I said I wouldn't have believed her at first. However, I would have asked, poked, prodded, and eventually found out the truth. The way I was feeling back then, I would have sent my cousin to the hospital, but I wouldn't have skipped town. I believe that things would have been dramatically different. Eventually, Marisol became consolable. She cried and apologized to both of us. As time went on, Marisol confessed that since she couldn't give me another child, she focused on being the best wife and partner she could be. When I left, she admitted that when she looked at our daughter, all she saw was my cousin. I asked her why she allowed my cousin to still come to our home. She said that in a way, he was my brother. I was always so proud of him, especially when he became a pastor. I spoke very highly of him. I always went to him for advice, and in her mind, she saw him as a mistake, a brief moment of mistake that wouldn't go away. So she avoided him at every turn. Luna's panic attacks came back a bit more aggressively, but now she's doing well. I officially adopted her last month. It was my birthday gift to her. She couldn't stop crying. She looked so happy. From what I heard, my cousin moved to Puerto Rico after getting fired. The bank had to let him go because a vast number of people were walking into the bank and making a scene. We placed a new trailer next to Luna for Marisol. She was released in mid-March, and at first it was awkward, extremely awkward. I used to watch TV shows with scenarios like this, having your ex-wife and current wife near one another. On TV, they're friendly. That's TV. Jocelyn was very civil but made a clear boundary for Marisol to follow. However, Marisol told us that she doesn't want to stay on our property. She wants to stay near us, but all she wants is to be a mother and grandmother. She wants her and me to be friends, but distant friends, and I can respect that. A few times, Jocelyn and Marisol butted heads, mostly on child rearing and cooking habits. My in-laws, like me, felt awkward about the entire situation, and it's not helping that my brother-in-law is a bit smitten with Marisol to the point that Jocelyn smacked him in the back of his head to try to knock some sense into him. It didn't work. The man is 2 years older than me, a widower of 2 years with 3 little girls. He's a really nice guy, a great wrangler, and he's been around my property more than I could care for just so he could try to talk to Marisol. I don't mind, but Jocelyn does. She's very overprotective of her big brother, and she feels that if the two of them do get together, she would not know if it was genuine. I can respect that. There was an incident on Luna's birthday shortly after giving her the adoption papers. I danced with Luna and then with Jocelyn, and when Marisol tried to dance with me after dancing with Roberto and Jocelyn's brother, I respectfully declined. This enacted Jocelyn's green-eyed monster, and she became a bit territorial. On Easter, we were watching the kids hunt for eggs, and I overheard Marisol tell Jocelyn that she envied her because she was able to give me children. Jocelyn told her that Luna was my daughter. Despite the circumstances, Luna was mine, and she should always remember that. Marisol cried, and it was the first time I saw them getting along. This is where I'm at right now. Hopefully, everything balances out. After another 4 months, OP gave us an update. This post is titled, "Why Must We Always Be Tested? Healing takes time and patience. Healing takes understanding. It also helps when there's a support system. My wife is my support system. Watching her with my daughter, the way she's there for her, and lately, the way she's there for my ex-wife amazes me. I feel so blessed. I sat her down and thanked her for everything she had done. I told her how lucky I was to be with her, and she gave me a wide smile before kissing me. She tells me that I saved her as well, reminding me about her very abusive ex and how trapped she was. Then she said that being there for me and my family was the least she could do. We sat watching TV while holding each other, and that was when I got a message from my cousin. I quickly blocked him. A week later, I received a letter from him and I burned it. Another week went by and my wife told me that her brother was heavily interested in asking her out. I do not care, but I told her that 𝕔𝕖𝕕 is a grown adult who is healing from a lot of trauma, and if he understands that and is willing to be patient, then I have no issues. A day later, I received another letter from my cousin and once again, I burned it. Normally, I would complain about how he found me, but I am named after my great-grandfather, whose name is extremely unique and my last name is not that common, so finding me with a simple Google search wasn't that difficult. In mid-June, we were enjoying a bonfire. I smiled at my daughter and son-in-law slow dancing to no music. My wife had her head resting on my chest and I noticed my brother-in-law and 𝕔𝕖𝕕 kissing, which made me smile. A few days later, my cousin tried to reach out to Luna on Facebook and she had a panic attack. Roberto blocked him, and later that day, while we were at the supermarket, my wife's ex came back to town and had the nerve to try to talk to her. I could see the fear in her eyes and I just reacted. It was a single punch, but I made sure it spoke volumes. My wife, my rock, my support was a quaking mess. The way she was shaking and terrified made me want to pounce on him, but the sheriff intervened and told him to leave before checking on Jocelyn. I have never seen her so terrified in the years we've been together. While the sheriff was talking to us, I watched her ex walking past the window, and the bastard was smiling at me. The sheriff noticed and grabbed my arm, telling me to take Jocelyn home. During that drive, she was quiet, and when we got home, all she wanted was for me to hold her and not let go. Luna was extremely concerned, and Jocelyn grabbed her as well and pulled her into a hug. None of us had ever seen her like this, and all I wanted to do was protect her. Later that day, her brother showed up and told us that he and the sheriff visited her ex and told him to leave. That didn't work. That man showed up at my shop the next day, threatening to sue me for assault. I just smiled at him. I told him that in the 10 minutes he was running his mouth, I came up with half a dozen ways to make him disappear. That shut him up, but for the next week and a half, he kept testing me, testing us. That entire time, Jocelyn was constantly afraid, thinking he might do something to her, to me. Her brother is a game warden and warned him to stay away, and the SOB reported him to his supervisor. Every time I wanted to approach him, Jocelyn begged me not to. However, she's my wife and I needed to protect her, but I told her that I would not approach him. Her father soon told me everything about that man, everything he did to her. I told him that I was surprised that he never got rid of him, and he said around the time he was seriously contemplating it, his kneecaps got broken and he left town. He was smiling wide at me, and I couldn't help but smile back. On the 29th, we were preparing for the upcoming Western Idaho Fair when I got another letter from my cousin. This time, I left it on my desk. 𝕔𝕖𝕕 approached me, asking if it was okay for her to pursue a relationship with Jocelyn's brother, and I told her it was, but only if she felt that she was ready. She shrugged, telling me that she doesn't know what she wants, but she does like him and thinks about him and his kids a lot. I told her I wanted her to find happiness and she began to cry, but they were happy tears and I was happy for her. My phone rang. It was the sheriff. Jocelyn's ex and another man were in the hospital. His face was practically smashed in and the other man had 2 broken eye sockets. I was preparing for him to accuse me, but then he told me he had my son-in-law in holding. The sheriff said there were a lot of witnesses that came to my son-in-law's defense. I didn't want to hear it over the phone and I raced to his office. When I got there, I saw Luna sitting by the front desk with a nasty bruise on her left cheek. The sheriff came to me and told me that according to all the witnesses, Jocelyn's ex purposely bumped into Roberto as he and Luna left the coffee shop. An argument started and Roberto tried to de-escalate the situation. Another man appeared and shoved Roberto, and Luna shoved the man and Jocelyn's ex back, prompting Jocelyn's ex to smack Luna, and Roberto placed the 2 men in the hospital. The sheriff is not pressing charges, but he had to inform Roberto's commander. After being released, Roberto had to leave for his 13-hour drive to Yuma immediately. Luna was blaming herself for pushing Jocelyn's ex. Jocelyn is trying to be there for her, but is blaming herself for this entire situation. Marisol is surprisingly there for both of them, and the topping of this sandwich came the other day. A woman who is 6 months pregnant came to my shop. She asked for my name, and when I saw her, she told me that she was my cousin's fiancée, which took me by complete surprise. My cousin has leukemia and has been trying to reach out to me, Luna, and Marisol to make penance. I told her to leave, but she refused. She wanted Luna and me to get tested to see if we're a match to donate bone marrow. She burst into tears, telling me that she doesn't want to have a child grow up without a father. I told her that she would be doing her child a favor. She slapped me. She said that my cousin was completely honest with her. She knows everything he has done, but she wants him to be in their child's life, and again begged me to get tested. I could pretty much guarantee I'll be a match because that's my luck. When I went back to my office, I opened up my cousin's letter. I was expecting to read a plea for mercy, for me to save his life. Instead, it was a letter confessing everything he had done, how while growing up he looked up to me, loved me, but when I began rebelling and joined the Latin Kings, he hated me for the pain I placed our grandmother in. I took everything for granted, and even though I always had his back and scolded him to make sure he stayed in school, he saw me as a hypocrite because I never took my own advice. Me taking Marisol away was the straw that broke the camel's back. He didn't expect me to actually try to make my life better. When I got stabbed and arrested, he saw that as divine intervention and admitted that despite her telling him no, he had to have her. He wrote in the letter that because of him, the woman he loved was broken. He ruined his daughter and destroyed the only man who loved him unconditionally. He also wrote in the letter that if his fiancée ever came to see me telling me that he was sick, it's true. He is sick, but he doesn't want me or Luna to get tested. This is the path he chose, and the outcome will be his. He ended the letter profusely apologizing to all of us. I saw my pastor soon after, venting everything, and he compared me to Job. This is ironic because out of all the biblical tales, I hated the book of Job. My pastor told me that everyone struggles like Job, some more than others, but it teaches us to comfort those who suffer and how we become better people through adversity. This morning, I went to the hospital. The benefit of a small town is that everyone knows everyone's business. Without asking, the nurse escorted me to Jocelyn's ex's room where I sat there waiting for him to wake up. He was shocked to see me. I had a conversation with him, and even though his jaw was wired shut, he completely understood the man I would become if he ever crossed my family again. I forgot how easily it was to become someone so dark. And as of this moment, I am sitting in the cancer ward just typing this long tirade on my phone, thinking about getting myself tested to see if I am a match, wondering why we must always be tested, why must we constantly endure, why must there be people who want to ruin everything. User Talibone77 said, "You're a good man, my brother. Our tests in life is what makes us stronger. Some never get tested, but somehow end up worse off than those who do. As they say, God never gives you more than you can handle. Continue to protect your loved ones, even those who don't deserve it." User Creature Shock said, "I've always believed that some people are just natural at getting pain thrust into their lives. And frankly, having read everything you ever posted here, if you aren't one, I'd hate to see someone that is. I don't know what to tell you about your cousin. Is it the right thing to do to get tested? Yes. Does she have the right to ask you for help? Yes. Do you have every right in the world to tell his fiancée to never darken your door again? Yes. Do you have the right to cut a hole in a lawn chair and use it to shit on your cousin's grave? Yes. I think at this point you need to worry about your immediate family, your wife and son. Luna has Roberto, and frankly, I think she and him should seriously consider going and living together in Yuma in on-base housing. Get her away from the BS for a while. Marisol, more or less, has your wife's brother. She can lean on him for a bit, but you need to worry about your wife and son. Are charges being pressed against Jocelyn's ex and his friend? If not, why not? To this, OP said the following: "It's different over here, especially since her ex is part of the reservation. Pressing charges on Jocelyn's ex and his friend gives them the right to also press charges on Roberto, and you do not want a US soldier locked up in a reservation jail. So they allowed bygones to be bygones. That happens a lot over here, including the sheriff. We have a total of 10 officers, and then you have the reservation and their police. A member of the Nez Perce Council gave us their word that Jocelyn's ex will never bother us ever again. I have my doubts, but my father-in-law told me that a Nez Perce word is more valuable than gold. I'll take his word for it, but I'm still going to keep my guard up, just in case. User Jokester316 said, "Wow, I'm sorry you and your family are going through so much turmoil. Jocelyn's ex-boyfriend will never get the point, unfortunately. After he heals, he will attempt again. Her dad beat him. You've beaten him. Your son-in-law has beaten him. He's not going to stop until he's in jail or in the ground. I think I would get tested for your cousin. I wouldn't respond to his communication. Just the act of kindness will say enough. You're a strong man. I wish you and your family peace in the future." User Bentobok-san said, "Your pastor made an apt comparison with Job. Everyone around him, his friends and his wife, wanted him to curse God for allowing such tragedies, but he was faithful and was rewarded for his faithfulness with a fresh start in his family, more wealth than he ever had before, and a return of his health. We are tested because we are capable of choosing. Yes, it's easy to be that man again. It would be easy to give in to our darker desires. But you walk the straight and narrow path, and it's hard. At your core, you still love your cousin because you were practically raised as brothers. At his core, Christ loved us. And more importantly, Christ loved you. On that cross, he saw everything you would ever do. Every sin, every dark deed, every dark thought. And he said, I love you and I forgive you. Maybe you can't forgive your cousin. Maybe you can. Either way, one day he'll stand before the throne, and the only way you'll see him in the afterlife is if he truly had a repentant spirit, if he genuinely regretted his actions and tried to atone for them. Because, brother, I'll shake your hand in the kingdom." Then another 5 months went by before OP gave us another update. This one being the final one from OP. It's titled, "Just Need to Vent." "Hello everyone, I would like to thank you, even some of the haters and naysayers, especially the ones I met at the Idaho State Fair who were shocked that we were real people. Right now, I'm sitting on the balcony by my hotel room. I spoke to my wife and kids a few hours ago. I missed them. 2 hours ago, I buried my cousin and I was the only person at his funeral. I was the only person who attended his wake. I tried to donate my marrow to him. When I told everyone what I was going to do, Luna was shocked. Jocelyn was proud of me for taking the high road, and Marisol understood. She told me that despite all of the cruel things I had done in my youth, I was never a killer. I went through a series of blood tests to make sure I could do it, and even flew to Puerto Rico back in November to personally tell him. He looked so frail in that bed. He struggled to smile when he saw me. He thought I was there to forgive him, and I told him I wasn't there for that, but I was there to help him. I told him I was a match and was there to donate. He laughed at me and shook his head. He refused. I told him that he needed to stop being a coward and be a father to the child his fiancée was having, and he told me that he was too far gone and that donation would not work. He was going to die and he was okay with it. I spoke to his doctors and they confirmed it. My cousin then told me that his fiancée emptied his savings, cleaned out his house, and disappeared. He said that it was what he deserved, and I didn't disagree with him. We soon sat awkwardly in silence for a few hours watching TV. I didn't know why I went back the following day just to do the same, and I repeated it for the rest of the week. No words, just the two of us watching TV. When I got back, I told Luna what happened, and she hugged me tightly, asking me if I was alright, and I nodded. Thanksgiving came and went. I went back in December for a week, doing the same thing, sitting in silence while watching TV. On Christmas, Roberto paid me what he owed on the trailer. I was shocked. He and Luna then told me that they were going to move to Yuma. I was supposed to be happy for them, but I cried. I didn't want her to move away. I had just gotten her back, and I know it was selfish on my part, but I wanted her just a little bit longer. She cried as well, promising me that she would visit as much as she could. I didn't want to let her go, but I understood in the end. On New Year's Eve, my brother-in-law proposed to Marisol, and she said yes. I thought they were moving too fast, but Marisol said she had put her life on hold long enough and needed to be happy. Then she asked me if I could give her away. I agreed and we all got drunk. A week and a half ago, I went back to Puerto Rico, visited my cousin, and sat down to watch TV. He looked at me and apologized for being a terrible person. I looked at him and told him that he was lucky he was dying. Otherwise, I would pop him in the mouth. That made him laugh, and he said he wouldn't doubt it, which made me laugh too. He died the following day. We were watching TV and he told me that he was going to take a nap and never woke up. No one else showed up at his wake, and as he was buried, I was the only one there. As angry as I was at that little I couldn't stop crying as they lowered his casket into the ground. All I could think about were all the times I protected him. The time I taught him how to tie his shoes, helping him with his cursive, teaching him how to play handball, teaching him how to drive, taking him to his first R-rated movie. Every moment of happiness I had with this man flooded back, and none of the f***ed up shit he did to me. Just all of these good memories came in, and I couldn't understand why. I just stood there silently crying as they poured dirt over him. I'm in this hotel, and the burden I had in my chest for so long feels like it's gone, and I'm so confused. Therapy didn't help. Anger management didn't help. Meeting Jocelyn and getting my daughter back, every positive aspect that happened didn't remove that burden in my chest, but spending time with that man in his final moments took away that burden. It took away that anger, and I do not know why or how. User Avatar Idalia said, I think you did the best thing possible. In the end, you were the better man for being willing to help him. Then, when you were told the marrow wouldn't help, you could have left, but you stayed with him and visited him. You were there for him till the end, proving with every second you were there exactly how much of a better person you are compared to how he was. And while I'm only a stranger, I'm too proud of you for taking the high road and being with him and staying so he had someone at his funeral. As for the release from the anger, it's because you know he can't wreak any more havoc on you now. He was a shadow always lurking behind you, and you were always waiting for his next move, for him to appear and cause trouble. Because he's gone, that anticipation is gone. There's no reason to be angry anymore. The problem died. Next, because if your mind works anything like mine does, do not feel guilty for mourning him. Despite the asshole he was, there is plenty to mourn. There are the good memories between you two, as well as mourning what could have been if things could have been different. Mourning that you can no longer feel the fight and rage towards him. You lost something, whether that is a cousin or an enemy. You're allowed to mourn everything you lost when he died. For Luna and Marisol, they are creating new chapters of their own. If Luna is ready to move away from you, she's definitely growing and healing from where she was when you first began these posts, which is wonderful for her. But I can understand it can be heart-wrenching to you because, in a way, you're losing her again. Your Luna isn't going to be a short walk away to say hello to anymore. The last time a separation like this happened, it was on very bad terms. This is going to give you some bad flashbacks and feelings and trigger you to think you're losing her. Just remember, she will always be your little girl. She loves you, and this time, the moving away is the good kind, the little girl growing up and moving away kind. I would argue as well Marisol might be going a little fast on the getting married part, but I'd be calling the kettle black because I married my husband just as quickly as she is to your brother-in-law. She too is healing and growing just like Luna. It's scary to see someone who is hurt and broken making these very big choices without some shred of doubt and worry crawling in, but she also has her husband to watch out for her, and I doubt Jocelyn would let her brother enter a marriage she believed was doomed without saying something. If she thinks things will be okay for both of them, I would trust in her. I very much hope you all find the peace your souls need and deserve. I hope maybe now this chapter of your lives can close and a beautiful new beginning can start for everyone. I pray if you update again, it's with news of how well everyone is doing. Much love. User Psychological Bad 2388 said your body and mind got the closure they needed. At the end of the day, it seemed like all of the anger you've previously mentioned came back to him. You guys had a bittersweet ending. He's your cousin, but he's your brother first, and that hurts. You've had a couple of chaotic years, but I think you're finally ready to move on to bigger and better things. I'm sorry for your loss, but congratulations for making it this far. It'll be better from this point on. I just know it. User Sarman82 said, I'm so glad you've finally been able to let go of that anger, Jefe. This was the last step you needed to take to heal the wounds from all those years ago. Whether you said it or not, your actions have shown your cousin some semblance of forgiveness and given him peace in his final days. I'm willing to bet that on a subconscious level, you sensed his peace and acceptance, and that finally allowed you to let go of the anger. Now that the anger is gone, cherish those memories you mentioned above. Remember that little kid who looked up to you? Don't be sad Luna and Roberto are moving. They have their lives and children, and you've taught them how good people should live. Distance will cause melancholy, but you will never lose them. Also, Stand Up Move accepting Marisol's request for you to give her away. This one got the onion ninjas running around in my office. Gonna have to blow my nose and wipe my eyes before going back to work. I hope you and all of your family experience nothing but love and peace for the foreseeable future. Dios los bendiga. User Bruticus2806 said, "You're such a great person and you deserve the world for everything you've gone through. Last I was active, I felt really bad for Marisol to be just stuck, and your updates have been more of a closure to all the ups and downs I emotionally had from reading it from start to end. I'm sad that someone who was a part of your childhood passed away, and if you ever feel low again, just know that at least he had someone at his funeral. If it weren't for you, he wouldn't have had a single person. He wouldn't have had that closure, that final guilt and resolve. That is why he did what he did. You gave him that, and I'm sure not just me, but each and everyone reading this post is proud of you for that. I understand that you need emotional strength, and I'm sending you tons of it. Your life choices and story have surely influenced my way of thinking and handling situations, and I aspire to be more like you when it comes to protecting the ones we love and care about. Thank you for existing, and you've really made a difference on this place we call the internet. I wish all the peace and prosperity to you and your loved ones." User General Butterfly 8557 said, "Man, I'm not going to lie. I cried reading this last update. You have been through so much and have shown grace, strength, courage, and love through it all. You may not know, or maybe you do. I truly believe God carried you through this. You are a good person, and I only hope the best for you with this next chapter in life. I say that because you experienced some closed doors now, i.e. your daughter moving on, the death of your cousin, and your ex-wife moving on. Now truly new beginnings are coming for you and your lovely wife. Best wishes to you and your family." User HighLady9627 said, "I won't lie, I cannot say I'm not happy he is dead because I am. He might be family and you made your peace with yourself and him in the end. But people like him deserve to only have one person attend their funeral, and karma truly hit him where he deserved. Good riddance. He was the last piece of the puzzle that you needed to solve to move on and be finally at peace. Your daughter is yours no matter what, and her family is yours. And your ex-wife, who I feel bad for but also have reservations about despite knowing she was a victim in the end, found her happiness, and the two of you made your peace. I am truly happy that your life blossomed the way it did, and I am glad you can finally live without that burden. I cannot say it won't come back to you later on, where you sit for a while and think about it, but that's life, right? I'm only 27 and have a lot of life to live. Today, ironically, is the birthday of my grandmother who took her own life last summer. 2 weeks ago, I had to make the choice to put my dog down. Her name was Luna. I have a lot of anger and sorrow in my heart, and your story gives me hope that perhaps with time that can be healed. I'm not sure. I send you so many blessings, and I hope all of your babies, including Luna's kids, are healthy and loved."